Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. I am joined with the lovely Simone Maurice. And today we're going to talk about Simone is another panelist on the AnotherWay Town Hall, which is next Wednesday in we work in Soho, but we're also going to be streaming it live. So we hope you will join us. And I wanted to introduce everyone to our panelists one at a time. So tonight is Simone, who's going to be representing the multimedia. Whatever that entails. And actually, I'm so grateful for you because that, as an industry, is definitely, I'm very far removed from that. So so I'm very excited that you represent everything from I've heard is really cool. So let's start out by telling us a little bit about what you're doing right now.
Sure. So right now, hello, everyone. It's great to be on the panel, so I hope to see everyone there. Right now, I'm on a series, and that series, it's a documentary series that's going to be coming out maybe at the end of the next year or the year after that, potentially. And I've been super busy working in post-production at the moment to do that. So
okay, very cool. And then I know, so one of the things that has always inspired me about you and is that you are very good, I think, at understanding or thinking about things from a different perspective and kind of understanding really where the money comes from and being able to tap into it in a way that a lot of artists struggle with, I think. And so it's not just, I've never thought of you as a struggling artist. You just don't have that mentality. I don't think I've ever heard you complain about it or anything. And your projects, you engage with your clients or the investors, whatever you want to call them, in a very interesting way. So can you talk about a little bit about, and you've talked about it as design thinking and a paradigm shift, which totally fits into the work that I do, but it's definitely mindset. So please tell us what that's all about.
Sure. Okay. I'm going to try to summarize it and be as succinct as possible.
Yeah.
But essentially, one of the things that I think about altogether when I'm working with creatively and more specifically for money, there are a couple things. And we had discussed this beforehand. I'm going to not try to conflate the two. But one of the things that I definitely think about is who is the audience? What do they want to accomplish? Or who's the client? What do they want to accomplish? What is their general sense, at least for a client's point perspective? And in my case, doing a lot of filmmaking, producing videos, delivering videos, ultimately, what is the feeling that they want to get? I do a lot of branding videos. So it's what is the feeling and how can I recreate that? You may not necessarily, we might have something on paper, and as we usually typically do, it's setting clear expectations. But ultimately, it's listening. There's a lot of listening involved. I think as artists, we tend to want to be the experts in terms of how we execute based on the art form and based on what the discipline is. However, many of the times, especially when it comes to this being paid, people have a different idea. And it's really modifying and adapting accordingly. What does that look like in terms of design thinking and design principles?
Yeah, how does design thinking, and tell us what that is, because I don't know if everyone knows what that is.
So design thinking is a mode or a way of processing or working that involves listening to what the audience or the client needs, and then using your creativity as an artist to deliver what that need is in a creative way. And I think I framed that from an artist's perspective.
Right, because design thinking really originated in like the business world.
Right.
Yeah. So that's
and innovation as well.
And
tech.
And tech really.
Tech, design. I think design and technology. I think they've owned the space right now for that. But I think design thinking even comes out of principles of design. I didn't go to design school, but I've heard a lot of designers talk about design thinking in that sense. And when you approach design, when you're designing, especially with industrial design, you're thinking about the needs of the person or people that are going to be using that product.
Right, and your market.
That's right, your market, and adapting accordingly.
Yeah.
And because I think that has gained a lot of currency with with technology, a lot of people are embracing that form of thinking in the arts and altogether too. So, yeah.
Can you give an example of how you've used it in your work?
Sure. Should I maybe explain?
Get in the screen. Yeah, I want to see your beautiful face. Oh yeah, we are. We're very low tech.
We're
low
tech.
Yeah, but that's okay.
So in terms of the actual, an example, I guess maybe a case study was
Sure.
Was maybe the case study I told you before with Instagram.
Oh, Instagram.
And
what you were doing. Yeah, that'd be great.
So a case study in this case, there was a client who wanted to promote a product, and in this case, they were looking at how many followers filmmakers had on social media. In my case, I don't have that many followers on social media, and one of the things that I did was leveraged an influencer in my network, built a case to say, well, knowing that this particular client was looking to reach out to a specific group, a specific demographic, and a mass market of that. Mm-hmm. I didn't have those ingredients, but I was tapped into a network that could provide that.
Okay.
And so what I proposed to them creatively was one idea, but I baked into those specific needs, that this is an influencer that has a mass market appeal, that also could appeal to a specific targeted group that they wanted to appeal to. That was the beginning. I think a lot of the times people think that things end once they booked the job, mm-hmm. And that's right. That's just the beginning.
Right.
That's just the beginning. The secret sauce, as we were saying before, of many relationships is. Or the secret sauce of business as an artist is relationships.
Right. Yeah.
So
right, and you're building a relationship every step of the way.
Yeah.
When you have to adjust your product mm-hmm. for the client's needs, and yeah, right. So go on. Yeah.
So in that case, what not only was it didn't end with the delivery of the video, and in this case, it was a social media branding video. Where it ended was just seeing the impact of that video. So as an artist, I was also looking at, did it meet the criteria and the standards and the goals that client had, not only artistically, but also in terms of the numbers.
Right.
And that built a really solid case. The numbers were there. Things were regrammed as a result. So that's currency right there as well in terms of the social media space. But also another big key part of it is looking at the engagement from that video in terms of people taking time to comment, not only but comment on it. And it was a really long list. And
then also you're employing the artist basically whose influence you were leveraging.
Right.
And you're building a relationship with the client.
That's right.
And so you've got your clients, you've got the relationships there. Mm-hmm. And then how do you feel like you're being fulfilled artistically through that process?
Good question. Artistically, I think it's the way you frame it. For me, artistically was, am I able to communicate an idea that I have not only to a client, but also to an artist and an influencer that mm-hmm. who is willing to execute that. Mm-hmm. So those are the two things artistically how I framed it.
Right. Cool.
The other part of it too is the actual execution of it and the outcome. Did it meet the feel and the look that the client wanted? Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of the times, I think many artists tend to argue, well, what you do for a client may not necessarily be personally artistically fulfilling.
Right.
But again, framing that in the context of perhaps using whatever is funding that project to fuel your artistic pursuits inside of that. I mean, again, it's about framing and mindset.
Right. And I think that's the paradigm shift that you speak of, which is a slightly different from my paradigm shift. But at the end of the day, it's a paradigm shift.
Right.
And, and a lot of what I talk about is another way, which is your way. So in this case, this is a paradigm shift that's really worked for you.
Right.
And you're able to get jobs, book jobs, and fulfill your artistic needs, which I think is fascinating.
Yeah. And it's follow through as well. I think at the end of the day too, it's once you think things are said and done, I think the onus is on the artist these days to own your art, and owning your art as well is to follow through and follow up after it's finished to say, here's the impact of what this was. Was that something, did it hit your goals?
Right.
Try to be a step ahead of your client. And this is specific to like a business client sort of relationship, more so than a mass market relationship. But I think it's really important to follow through and see what are the goals, what are the next steps, that they hit their targets. Was that helpful in hitting their targets? That I think it also requires wearing a hat of what would my client want? What's the value am I giving? Because it's really value driven, and that's the main,
absolutely.
That's a key important part.
Yeah, and I think another thing that you're doing, which is really great, is we've had a comment. Hello, Matthew has joined us. Feel free to comment, everybody. We love comments. You can ask a question to Simone yourself.
Yeah.
But one of the things I love that you're doing too is that I know you have your own projects that are large projects that have taken a long time to get off the ground, and they kind of get derailed from, you know, work, which happens. A lot of artists can attest to. But what it feels like, and this is part of paradigm shift, I think, is that you're still, these skills that you're honing by learning about how to address a market, how to look forward to the goals, even if they're not your goals, you know, keeping your client in mind, communicating with the influencer and the example you gave, all of those things are actually helping you in your larger in your larger goals, if you will. And I think, so it all seems to be serving you wherever you're at. And I also really like that too, because I think you're then focused on, and I talk about this a lot too, and what is around you and how to leverage what is around you instead of getting caught up in what you don't have. You do that really well.
Yeah, you always have to take a look at what your immediate network is. Because your immediate network is your net worth. Truthfully, if you think about it that way, there's a lot you can do. A lot of times I think we're conditioned to believe having a very consumer mindset of going out and getting something that we don't have, or thinking a scarcity mindset. But really, we really need to take a look at, I'm certain everybody today could right now think of people in their network that could increase their net worth by at least 1%.
Absolutely.
At least 1%.
Absolutely.
Right now. It's very possible. I don't mean to sound very salesy saying this. There's something that you and Matthew introduced me to, which are SMART goals. This is measurable. If you create something that is simple, measurable, I think is actionable and time bound. Yeah. Those are things with a deadline. Yeah, with a deadline. That if you give yourself challenges, but just going back and backpedaling for a second, everything counts. So even if you give yourself a pet project, that counts for something. If you really put in the time and focus and energy into it, it does go somewhere. There's a great person who I follow, whose blog I follow, Tina Roth Eisenberg, who took all of her hobbies and essentially turned them into businesses, and she's a designer.
Cool.
And yeah. So I think everything counts at the end of the day, so long as you focus on it and you measure it. Yeah, that's really important.
Yeah, I agree. That's great. Okay, so we're just about out of time. Before I ask you for your famous last words, I want to remind everybody to come check out the town hall next Wednesday. You can see all the information. It's at 6 o'clock. Starts at 6 o'clock. It's at www.showgoesonproductions. Simone will be on the panel there to talk about the multimedia industry, which is so huge. It includes film, television. You're working with gaming, and you also work with musicians.
I work with musicians as well,
which is really cool. So in some ways, it's kind of cross-industry, which is so exciting to me. So bring your questions, bring your voice, talk to us, engage with us about your ideas. Simone, last words.
If you can't be there, at least try join us virtually.
We'll be streaming.
We are.
Yeah, we're going to be streaming on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Hopefully, I don't know about Twitter.
Okay,
but definitely Instagram.
If we're streaming. Definitely, and I think we're all accessible. I mean, there's one of the things that I used to do, a quick hack, which was if there was a conference I couldn't get to, I actually would go peruse the conference agenda to see who's there, and then I would personally go contact them and have a personal phone call with them.
Cool. Oh, cool.
So there's always network.
Yeah, relationships. It's the secret sauce.
Exactly. So make it happen. Like, use what you got. But if you can make it, come on down. It will be definitely worth your time, and definitely a great way to start off the new year.
Yeah, sure. And that's why we're doing it so early. Where can they find you?
You can find me multimediamaverick.com, Simone at multimediamaverick.com as well.
Cool.
And you can find me there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Have a good night, everybody. Bye. Thanks for joining us.